Okay, guys, here's the thing. I want you guys to fight the shit. You are here, and I am here to tell you, now that I'm no longer working for EEOC, that's what we did, you guys. And you better know, you have to know that your rights right now, you are protected right now. You are protected today. But there's two things you need to know. Three things you need to do. One is educate yourself as to what your rights really are. Two is to hold the agencies that are supposed to protect you accountable. And three is to know what's going on politically and in the news. There's a guy named Gorsuch. He is going to be appointed by Donald Trump to the Supreme Court. His one big case that you know about right now is that he says a guy should die in his truck when it's 30 below, rather than go home or leave the truck, or he should drive on the highway and make everybody else's life dangerous. This is, and by the way, he was overturned in the Supreme Court. That's how important this federal law stuff is. It is absolutely important to your every single day life. And that's why I want to talk about it, and that's why I was at the EEOC, because when it's working right, it's really, really, really central to all of these issues that we've talked about, and central to you as employees, as moms, as dads, as people who care about other people. Okay, so the first thing I want to tell you about is you can't get into federal court unless you file in a discrimination case, unless you file a charge with the EEOC. We were like the stopgate, and basically, I can say all this stuff now, right? Basically, what it comes down to is if I wanted to prosecute somebody, and I was a public defender, believe me, it's easy to prosecute individual people. I could put you in jail over somebody's word, and unless you had a whole hell of a lot of money with you right then, you weren't going to get out for 6 or 8 months. But it's really, really hard to prosecute big companies, and that's what we did. So, one of the first things they do to slow you down is to say you have to come to the EEOC, and you want to know how to deal with the EEOC. So, you can file a charge in any of the 53 field offices. You can call. If you call, I would ask to speak to an investigator. I'm not sure how each office deals with that. I worked in St. Louis regional office for about 14 and a half years, in the Tampa field office, which was part of the Miami district, for 2.5 years. Different offices do it differently, but the bottom line is, if you ask for an investigator, at least you're bypassing some of the gatekeeping. Okay? Timing is everything. Under most law, if you run into me and you hurt me physically, I get like 5 years to do anything about it. Another way you can learn, that's just basic tort law in most torts. Most times you're trying to get money for injuries, which is what this is all about. However, if you want to go up against a corporation, again, we're going to make it pretty tough, because you have to decide within 180 days. And you have to know you were discriminated against. The first bill that Barack Obama signed had to do with Lilly, Ledbetter, thank you. And the Lilly Ledbetter law had to do with the fact that she worked at a big bad company, Goodyear, for a long time. Right. She made less money, she didn't realize it, and basically when she got to the court, another place that is not always real friendly for plaintiffs and individuals, they said, well, guess what, you know, you should have made this, should have filed this suit a long time ago. Well, of course she didn't know that, and in some states it's still even illegal for you to ask. And a lot of companies try to do that, say you can't ask what somebody else's pay is, right? You probably have heard that. I certainly started working long enough ago to have heard that kind of stuff. And now the EEOC says that's not okay for a company to do. The point I'm going to make a couple times over is what the EEOC says and what the EEOC enforces depends a whole lot on every person here and all of us. And it's the same thing that the congressman and staff are saying now. If you want to be sure your health care is okay, if you want to be sure that you still have certain rights that you think you have, you better be on top of the congressman and you better make sure that they're working. It's the same way with any federal agency. In Florida and in most states, you can actually get 300 days simply because of a kind of complicated thing with the state agency having 300 days. But the point being that you don't have a whole lot of time, and it is very, very, very common for all of us, and it would be for me if I was in the situation, to say, what am I going to do? I don't want to lose my job. I got to pay my rent. I got to buy groceries. And you can do that for a long time and just lose your rights. So you don't want to do that. If you call the EEOC, if you talk to an investigator, that's completely confidential. So let's talk about new Prime Inc. Has anybody heard of Prime Trucking?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Those guys are not okay. They really aren't. I mean, I spent a lot of time with them, and I was just like Donald Trump. They put me up in the truck to show me how it was obviously such a small space that a woman was going to get sexually harassed and or attacked because it was physically just inevitable in this small space. I'm not kidding. That's their argument. So, in September 2011, the EEOC, let me just be sure everybody knows that's the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission. It's a federal agency that basically investigates and prosecutes employment discrimination, and I'll tell you a little bit more about that, but I'm going to talk about Prime just a second. Basically what Prime did is in 2003, after they kind of half lost, half won a trial against the EEOC in which 3 women had been assaulted on several occasions, and these women see, the thing is, Prime could have settled it with these women immediately. They could have gone to some extent, gotten some evidence, and then said, okay, EEOC says this, you say this, we really know that at this point we have to settle. But Prime did what basically most large employers have done since the beginning of sexual harassment case law, and that is that they either women who file sexual harassment lawsuits are either sluts or nuts. Have you ever heard that? Yeah. That's what it is. And that's what they do, and that's what they did to these 3 women. And yet, by golly, that meant that in order to be, and they were all white male, believe me, the people leading the company and who came up with this policy, in order to protect these women, they decided that ultimately they weren't going to hire women. That's not how they said it, because they're not that stupid, but they're amazing. I'm serious. It's like they had a facially discriminatory policy. That doesn't happen in 2011, but they did. Okay, so in September 2011, we did bring a suit against Prime. We said that they discriminated against female truck driver training applicants.